Clock on the dot, so not to delay anyone, we'll go ahead and begin this meeting with the Gonzales City Council today, November 6th, 2023. Mr. Funk, would you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Sure.
Would you all join?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let the record show that Ms. Silva has notified us that she's got the traffic, which is trying to become a common way problem. Salinas and Gonzales, so it's something that will be really in the future. Can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Pro, Scott Funk,
Present.
Liz Silva will be late. Councilmember Lorraine Worthy,
Present.
Councilmember Maria Orozco,
Present.
and Mayor, Jose Rios.
President. And today I have the joy of presenting certificates of recognition to the Gonzales High tennis team for having taken first place in the Cypress Division. So if you'll, I'll go up there and hand out the recognition of certificates. Right, Stella, would you read it for me, please? I think your mic's on. Start with the very first one you got on top there.
I got the coach's certificate.
We'll save the coaches for last, if you don't mind. But we'll
No,
start with.
these are the regular certificates.
Okay.
There are two types. So on behalf of City of.
Here on the mic so that they can hear you on the
Okay.
video.
All right. On behalf of City of Gonzales, we would like to express our congratulations and recognitions for becoming the 2023-2024 Cypress Division champions and for going with an undefeated record of 12-2-0. We are proud of your accomplishments and for representing your school, community, and families with the highest degree of integrity, dignity, and sponsorships. Once again, congratulations and go Spartans.
And our first one is
Genesis Zavala.
Jennifer Zavala. She here tonight? She's not here? Okay, we'll save this right here. We'll give it to the coach.
Okay. Danilin Saldana.
Saldana? She's not here. Okay.
Bridget Valdez.
Bridget Valdez? Okay.
And Angela Madrigal. Tracy Leon. Guadalupe Cervantes. Isabel Santos. Leticia Bernardino. Jocelyn Reyes.
That's all right, no, good. I'm glad you're speaking up.
Marisa López Valdez. Maya Flores. Marisa López Valdez. I think that, oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, I think so. Sofía Navarro. Jimena Santos.
Thank you, Jimena.
Hold on. Okay. And this was for the first place. Alejandra Piñón Ruiz.
And by the way, she was the singles champion for the Cypress League. Congratulations.
What's that?
This was second place. No. Judith Zarate. And Aliyah Castillo. And for our coaches,
Coaches.
Cesar Ayon.
Okay.
And Athena Landeros.
Yes, thank you so much for this recognition. These ladies, the young ladies here more than deserve it. I was checking with Mr. Brennan when Gonzalez High was founded. He couldn't answer that, but he could answer when the first class graduated, 1911. Since 1911, no team for tennis, boys or girls, has won the division. 112 years. That changed this year. I'm actually the assistant coach. I was the head coach for many years, but once I got on the board, I decided to make one of our own the head coach. So we haven't had a female head coach in Gonzalez since the 90s. So a good 30 years. And now Athena Landeros is our head coach. And in only her second year, she takes league.
So I am very proud of all these young ladies. They've shown the dedication. They stay after practice past 2 hours. They're practicing out there until dark. They even practice on Saturdays. They've really shown the dedication that they really wanted to win league this year. So I want to say congratulations for all these girls that have came today and represented Gonzalez High in tennis and making history for the first time ever in winning league and also going undefeated.
There you go. Right.
And just one last thing. I want to, give props where props are due. So we know that our champion here, our number one, Alejandra Piñón Ruiz, she went undefeated the whole league as well, took first place in the tournament, and was one tiebreak away from going to CCS. So she really represented us well. Also, our doubles team of Aliyah and Judith, they actually wound up taking second. So in the tournament, we took the first 2 spots, the first and second. So we really dominated this season. Athena and I, we didn't actually do anything other than coach. They actually got all of the victories. And so we're really proud of them. And in fact, 9 out of the 10 are seniors. So unfortunately, yeah, but anyway, it was great. It was great. It was a great season. Athena and I, we always say we took them kicking and screaming, but we went undefeated, right? And that's what counted. The girls believed in our suggestions, and they nothing's free. They put in the hard work, and we have the results. So thank you so much for the recognition.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Before we have them come up and take a picture with the council, I just want to say that I'll be the first one to buy tickets to the Gonzalez movie, McFarland, this will be Gonzalez, state champion soon, right?
Yes.
All right, so would you all join me for this nice sort of picture with the entire council? This- Yes,
Yeah.
this is historical, so I definitely want to be part of history. I'm getting old enough to be a historian. Come on up, Gil. The whole team, come on up, come on up, come on up. Come on up.
Let's have this set. We're not gonna get to them. Yeah, that's perfect. Hey. Look over here. 1, 2, 3. Undefeated. Yeah.
Well, the Cleveland doesn't have anything in our drought. 113 years. Wow, that's a long time. I didn't realize that. I thought somewhere back there in the 70s, maybe they had taken some kind of title, but I guess not. Well, after all the excitement, there's more excitement coming up, and we have a presentation for Monterey Salinas Transit. Hey.
That's okay. I don't anticipate I'm gonna be able to top that. So, my name is Carl Sidoric. I'm the CEO for the Monterey Salinas Transit District. And thank you for having me here today. This is our first time out in front of the community council since COVID. Prior to that, we would come to your city councils about every other year or so and kind of give you an update on how things are. And I was so happy to be here today. A little bit of history, since we're talking about history for transit. Your very own council member, Maria Roscoe, was the first South County council member represented on the MST board and the first member of the South County communities to be the chair of the MST board. And I've been around a long time. I got to see all that. So again, my name's Carl, and here to provide you with the update on MST. So next slide. So MST is your public transit operator for the county. We're the only public transit operator in Monterey County. And what you would see if the next slide was there is a list of all the various board members on the MST board. We have a representative from each city council, all 12 cities, and one county board of supervisor. And currently you are being ably represented, and for the past several years, by Councilmember Worthy, who's very active on our board and asks a lot of good questions. So next slide. So what is MST all about? Our mission, what do we do? We're advocating and delivering quality public transportation as a leader within our community and within the public transportation industry. Our vision, as far as why do we exist, it's for connecting communities, creating opportunity, and being kind to the planet. Our values, what do we believe in? What's our culture at MST? We focus on safety, friendliness, dependability, diversity, and achievement. Next slide. I can keep going. You have it in front of you?
Yeah, we have it in
Wonderful.
front of us.
Perfect. So in last fiscal year, the year ending June 30th, 2023, we carried 2.2 million passengers, and that was a 20% increase over the previous year. Prior to COVID, we were carrying around 4 million passengers, and we're still running as of this point, January from January to October, we're running about 25% higher ridership. So ridership is coming back relatively quickly as more people are going back to work and back to school in person and using our services. So who do we serve? About 3/4, 76% of the people that we serve are the population is historically underrepresented and non-white. So we're one slide ahead of there. There we go. And the same percentage, 77%, have household incomes of under $40,000 a year. 25% of our trips start within what is known by the state as a disadvantaged community. And the state defines disadvantaged communities as not just low income, but also having various other socio-economic and demographic factors related to pollution and lack of social services. Only 6% of the county of Monterey actually lives in what the state calls a disadvantaged community, yet 25% of our public transit trips start within those disadvantaged communities every day. 20% of them have a disability that prevents them from driving themselves to get to work, so they're dependent on MST. Next slide. So where are these 2.2 to 4 million people going? Well, the same place that we all go, that those of us who aren't dependent on public transportation. They're going to work, they're going to medical appointments, they're going to school, they are going shopping, and they're going out and having, recreation, visiting friends, going to the park, going to the ocean, going to wherever it is they need to go. They're living their lives, but using public transit to do so. Why are they using public transportation? Because most of them don't have a car, or they're unable to drive. Those are the biggest reasons given by our passengers. And these stats, just to let you know, we go out every other year and we survey our passengers. We actually have people who take the surveys in Spanish and in English, and we actually ask them where they're going to, when, and helps us to be able to provide better service to the community by just asking people what they do. So next slide. What would it look like if our service wasn't available? Next slide. Yeah, we call this a day without transit. Full 20% of current passengers just would not be able to take the trip. They would not be able to go to school. They would not be able to go to work. They would not be able to make their medical appointment because they don't have someone else to take them. So they're 100% dependent on us. Another 17% have the ability to walk to where they need to go or take a bike, and they have those abilities. The other 64% would take a vehicle of some sort. They would either drive their own car, they would have someone else drive them, or they'd take a taxi or an Uber. Now, at 2.2 million, or let's just say 4 million, where we were before COVID, 60%, that's 2.5 million additional trips that would be on our roads if people weren't taking transit, because they would take another vehicle to get there. And we heard, Ms. Silva, that you were caught up in traffic coming from Salinas to this council meeting. Can you imagine what another 2.5 million trips would look like on our very limited roads? So, that's part of the reason why we exist. Next slide. So here's where the ridership is currently occurring on our fixed routes in Gonzales. You have a couple of different services provided to you. You have our regular fixed route service, which is the buses running on a regular schedule. You're served by currently the lines 23 and the 23X. We also have something currently called MST on call, which is you call in and make a reservation for a trip within the community. And then you have the MST Rides program, which is services for people with severe disabilities that are unable to even use the bus. And MST Rides will take a person from their door onto the vehicle and then take them to the door of where they're going. Next slide. So what does ridership look like in fixed route? We have about on lines 23, between January and September, we had 4,000, about 4,500 or 16 passenger boardings per day. Taking that out through the end of the year, you could say that would be, probably closer to 7,500 boardings. The on-call service, that's your in-town dial-a-ride, a little over 5,000, 5,400, about 20 passengers per day. And the rides trips, about 5 passengers per day, people with severe disabilities. 62% of the residents of your city live within a 15-minute walk, half mile from a bus stop. We've been working with city staff to move the MST on call from a service that you have to call up in advance to a bus that circles the community about every half hour or so. With the bus stops that we have worked with staff to put in, 97% of your population will be within a 15-minute walk of a bus stop. So significant improvement of access to our service. So our most frequent bus stops are at 5th and Day, 5th and Gavilan, and 5th and the shopping center. Next slide. And you can just see that located. We actually have these infrared sensors on board our buses, and they can tell when someone is walking up or walking out, and actually creates a transaction in a system, and it's geocoded so we know when people are getting on or off. We don't know who they are. We're not keeping track of individuals. We just are saying someone's getting on the bus or getting off the bus. So next slide. And the deboardings, similar. People are generally getting off in the same places they got on, right? They make a round trip. Very rarely do we see anything different than that. Next slide. So in MST in 2023, as far as how we mentioned we're connecting communities, creating opportunity, being kind to the planet. We also call that people, planet, and performance. How are we doing with the planet? 100% of our heavy duty, the big buses, are either fueled, powered by renewable biodiesel or renewable electricity. We are coming to our board in December to seek authorization to buy another 12 zero-emission electric buses to add to our fleet, with the intent of being 100% zero emission by 2040, maybe even a little earlier than that, depending on how quickly we can turn things around. We remove the equivalent of 110,000 single occupancy vehicle trips from the roadways each month. We reduce greenhouse gas emissions by the equivalent of adding 220 acres of forest each month. And it's not just something I think is important. We ask our passengers, 74% of these very low income working people believe that reducing greenhouse gas emissions are important. And the reason I make that a point is, for many years, I've heard that environmental concerns are we'll just say a more rich person's type of issue, that working people aren't as concerned about the environment. They just need to get to work and they don't care. Our surveys show, at least in this county, that 74%, 75% of them say it's very important. So that's good to know. Next slide, please. There's one of our zero emission buses that we are operating. Hopefully we're going to get a lot more. We have 5 vehicles today, 12 more. That's out of a total fleet of 162 that we hope to replace over time. It's going to take some time to get there, but we will. Next slide. So we have a very large service area. We go from Paso Robles to the south to Gilroy to the north to Watsonville, serving areas in Santa Cruz, San Luis Obispo, and Santa Clara County, with connections can be made to Hollister, San Juan Bautista, and beyond. From the Gilroy station, you can connect to the Caltrain, get all the way up to San Francisco if you need to, or to the Capital Corridor, on to Sacramento and beyond. So we're an important regional connection for people to move around. Our bus operator, we asked our passengers how we're doing, and 91% said that our bus operator's driving is good or excellent. That compares to a national average of 75%. If you ask people all around the country, what do they think? 75% say that. Our services, rate our services good or excellent, 87% versus 58% nationally. And our bus cleanliness, on board 82% say good or excellent compared to 38% as the national average. And if you've ever been on a San Francisco Muni bus, you'll know what I'm talking about. So no offense to San Francisco Muni, but just saying. Okay. The community survey that I just talked about, 409 residents who don't use transit. So we also ask people who don't use transit because they're supporting us with their tax dollars as well, right? So it's important that we do what they like. 95% feel that MST services are valuable to the community. 87% so they think it's important for the entire county to support and fund improved transportation. Over 80% think there should be greater levels of funding for transit over the next 5 years. Next slide. So where does our money come from? For the most part, it comes from state sales tax is our biggest contributor. Then we have federal and state fuel taxes making up another large percentage. Measure Q was the local measure that was passed some time ago. I'll talk a little bit about that. Provides another big chunk. Passenger fares are only right now covering about 5% of our expenses. Prior to COVID, they were covering 20%. So we still have a ways to go to get back to some financial stability. And so you see, because of that big drop, we're eating into our reserves at about $4.5 million a year right now in order to continue providing existing service levels and not raising fares, because we're trying to come out of COVID and we don't want to cut service or raise fares. Hopefully the community will come back before we run out of reserves. Next slide. That's my job to manage that. Okay. Where does the money go? Mostly to our employees in the form of labor and benefits. We also purchase transportation from a company called MV. That's another big portion of $11 million out of the 58. And then fuel, parts, supplies could play another big part. Next slide. So I talked a little bit about Measure Q, providing a big source of funding for us. Measure Q is a measure that was passed in 2014. It was the first county-wide measure that was passed in Monterey County for anything to receive over 2/3 of a vote, over 67%. We passed with almost, I think, a little over 72%. And that was specifically for transportation programs for seniors, veterans, and persons with disabilities. So it does not fund our regular fixed route operations. It only funds those special services for people with really deep mobility needs. So MST rides ADA shuttle. We have senior shuttles. We provide taxi vouchers in communities that have taxis. We're trying to figure out a way to extend taxi services down into the South County cities, and maybe try to figure out a way to get Ubers or Lyfts to come here and accept our vouchers. We're still working on that. We'll let you know. We also have volunteer and travel training programs, and we have for people in more urban or in more rural areas, we have the travel reimbursement program. If you live outside 3/4 miles of an existing bus stop, and you don't have, you can't get to where you need to go through MST rides or other services, you can have a volunteer, friend, relative, neighbor, take you from your home to where you need to go, and we'll reimburse them through Measure Q funds so that they are made whole in helping us get people to where they need to go. So we've got lots of different programs through MST. Next slide. Measure X is another program that it's a sales tax measure by CAMC. Funds mostly local road programs, but it's important. We still ride on the roads. We're not running hovercraft yet. So, you know, it's important for CAMC to have in your cities to have the road money. About 7% of the money, though, is earmarked for MST projects like our SURF Rapid Transit Project along Highway 1 and Salinas Valley Transit facilities and centers like the King City Operations and Maintenance Center that we built 2 years ago. Next slide. So recently we've been noted for various achievements, including our COVID response. We've been recognized nationally by state, by local officials about how we reached out to the community and responded to COVID. Also for our responses to wildfire evacuations and flood evacuations over the past year. We just built a new facility in South County that helps us serve the South County cities more efficiently with less greenhouse gas emissions, lower vehicle miles traveled. We have university partnerships with CSUMB, Hartnell College, and Monterey Peninsula College. All their students ride MST for free. We've implemented the first contactless payment system in the country that allows you to pay for our services, just using, instead of buying a special pass, just use your debit or credit card. Right? And then it just pay for your transit like you pay for your coffee. That's the concept here. Simple concept. Apparently no one else figured out how to do it yet. We actually beat New York City to it. So I don't know. We've also implemented a new subsidized van pool program. So if our buses don't serve you or your place of work, you can band together. We have a countywide van pool provider through Enterprise, and we will subsidize $450 a month to help pay for a van pool for those people who want to share a ride if the bus doesn't work. Then we've implemented a whole new bus network. Next slide. So, oh, there's the contactless payment. I already talked about that. Hit the slide and you can see how that works. That's my phone in my hand. If you hit the slide, it should go boop. Oh, we went on. Never mind. It's not worth it. It just shows you tapping and it pays and it all works. Great. Next slide. That's fine. Okay, so the Better Bus Network. During COVID saw that there were many people that were still riding the bus. We went down from 4 million riders a year, but still carried over 1 million passengers during the worst of COVID. And those are people that weren't riding the bus because they wanted to. Obviously, they had to. No one was getting on a bus if they didn't have to during those times. So we had essential workers who had to go to medical appointments or to their essential jobs, whatever that may be, and they were using transit to do it. And so we took a look at ourselves and our board, try to say, we really need to focus our services to where these people are who need us the most and who've demonstrated the most need during the worst of times. So we reallocated our service. That meant taking service away from some peninsula communities that may be wealthier, may have people that don't need the bus as much, to the South County and Salinas Valley communities where there's higher unemployment, lower car ownership. And so we reallocated our resources from the peninsula to the Salinas Valley, and we've made the trips faster. We've increased the frequency, and we've lowered the fare to $2 for 2 hours. We've put more buses near where people live and more buses where they work. Next slide. And what's the future hold for us? Next slide. The Surf Busway and Bus Rapid Transit Project. It's about a $77 million project. It's a project from Marina along Highway 1 to Sand City that bypasses traffic on Highway 1. It's a lane that people who are traveling, even from, I know of people who travel from Gonzales to Monterey every day on the bus. This will save them easily 20 minutes in traffic because our buses will not be stuck in Highway 1 traffic, either heading in or heading out, because we'll have our own lane. We have the Salinas Operations and Maintenance Facility. Our current facility is over 40 years old. It's not fitted out for all the electric and hydrogen fuel cells, so we're going to build a new facility somewhere in Salinas. We're going to put bus rapid transit in the LSL. We need to invest in those zero emission buses, as I talked about, and battery electric and hydrogen fuel cells. Next slide. So the SURF, I've mentioned that. I'll tell you real quickly what that's all about. Next slide. So you can see there from Marina down to Sand City, there's a railway. If you look, it's been a railway since 1870. It's not been used for rail since 1990. We're looking at operating within that corridor without moving any of the rails, just within the corridor, putting in pavement and that will support buses for two-way traffic. And for 6.5 miles, we'll be out of traffic. So it preserves the corridor for future use, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and provides much more reliable transit because we won't be at the whims of traffic, and whether there's an accident or whether there's a car show or whether there's some other event going on that creates traffic in that area. Next slide. So that's what it's going to look like. We're going to put in another couple miles of bike and pedestrian trail. There's already a pedestrian trail there. We'll be operating outside of it. We'll be operating adjacent to it, but we're going to be making pedestrian and bike improvements. Next slide. So our challenges and opportunities, we have to have the economy needs to, most of our people are going to work and are using the bus. So the economy has to come back, and we'll come back as the economy comes back and people get going back to school. Hiring drivers. I was just telling the mayor, he's telling me about his brother, used to be work for a school bus driver. I said, heck, have him put in an application. We could use him. Our federal government, we do depend, I mentioned in the slide that we get quite a bit of money from the federal government, and no more needs to be said there. It's zero emission bus regulations. You know, this is all new technology. It's just rolling out, finding a workforce who can work on this high technology. We're working with Hartnell College, developing a program with them to identify how they can develop student skills to work on electric buses and hydrogen fuel cells. How our communities develop, how we try to get more development closer to where our roads, existing streets and roads are. The further we've spread out our development, the harder it is for transit to get there. Changing demographics as our city cores become more and more expensive and housing prices go up. That's pushing the low-income people who depend on transit further and further away from the cities, making it harder for us to go get them where they are, to bring them where they need to be. Then SB 125, I just want to talk briefly about that. SB 125 is funding that the state put out this year. It's about $50 million to Monterey County, intended to go to transit operators to help them with their fiscal issues relating to COVID. As you saw, that we currently are running a deficit at MST, and we have significant capital requirements for our buses and other facilities. It's being allocated to the Regional Transportation Planning Agency, which in this county is TAMC, to allocate per the legislature to the transit operator to meet their current operating needs. Currently, TAMC is looking at spending about half of that money on designing, architectural design and environmental work on rail stations that currently don't offer rail service. So MST, Lorraine, you'll be hearing a presentation. Read your board packet, came out today. We have an issue with that. You know, money solves a lot of problems. Money also creates problems too, because now we got to fight amongst ourselves for it. So more to come. Next slide. Any questions?
Council, I'll start on this side.
Thank you, Carl, for your presentation. A few years ago, MST had a grant that provided bus service for folks who work in Monterey directly. It would stop in Chular, and from Chular would go directly to the peninsula. I know we do have a lot of hospitality workers in South County that's always such a hassle for them to get to where they need to get. And I don't know if there's going to be any future grants available for that type of service, or do you foresee anything like that?
That grant went away in like 2012, 13. That
Yeah, it
program
was a
was
few years
discontinued.
ago.
That was part of why we went for our local sales tax funding.
Mhm.
And part of our better bus network, we reduced the commute time from the South County cities to the peninsula by up to 45 minutes each
Right.
way.
Yeah,
So by redoing our network, now there's only a 5-minute wait in Salinas to make that transfer. When we finish the surf, there'll be another 18 minutes of saving along that segment. So there are programs that if we keep doing this, pretty soon you'll get there before you leave, right? No, so I'm gonna have to do the math on how fast we're gonna get there. But there are programs that we're putting together to make it more convenient and faster, because that's what people want.
thank you.
Mr. Funk?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Silva?
No, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Ms. Worthy? No?
Okay,
I have one.
Okay.
Cruising range on the electric buses, it's what is it?
little over 200 miles.
Okay.
Most
So
of our
can't
buses,
make Kingston-
most of our buses do a little over 300 miles a day though. So that's a problem for
Yeah.
us. So we currently with the electric bus technology, we'd have to buy for most of our fleet, 2 buses for everyone that we're operating, because they won't operate a full day. That's why we're looking at hydrogen, because hydrogen has the same operating range as a bus. And also a battery electric, it takes 4 hours to charge, hooked up to a charger. It takes 10 minutes to fill it with hydrogen. So you mentioned some family and bus maintenance, right? So when that bus is hooked up to a charger, I can't do other work on the bus. I can't maintain it. So if we can fill them fast with hydrogen, we can then have time to maintain them at night. So that's where we're looking for that for the long term.
And as always, I always learn something new from these presentations. I knew you had opened a route to Gilroy, which I think is great.
Right.
But I didn't know we actually extended all the way to King City, or excuse me.
Paso Robles
That's amazing.
for
It's really
$2.
amazing.
For $2.
Well, yeah, that's amazing. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to tell everyone, and I know I've said this sitting up here, that this is such an incredible agency. Carl works very hard with his staff. I can't emphasize enough all of the work they did this last year with the flooding that happened in the Pajaro area.
And San Lucas as
And
well, yeah.
exactly, and down south. So I just want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And we appreciate everything you do.
And appreciate your staff helping us get this circulator going. Looking
that's a
forward to
whole nother
implementing that
thing.
here
Yep,
and the rest of the South County cities. Thank you very much for your time.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Excuse me. Moving on, items not on the agenda. Any member of the public may comment on any item not on the agenda. They're limited to 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. Anyone from the public have a comment to make? Doesn't look like. Marisol, do we have anyone on Zoom?
No.
Well, we can still finish
Oh.
Zoom, but.
My bad, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay, thank you. Rosa Rodriguez, 307 Ayrshire Way. First, I want to thank Mr. Ayon for volunteering with the tennis. Also, Mr. Ayon has inspired my son to volunteer to teach tennis, so I'm really happy about that. And I also want to recognize publicly our previous mayor, Mr. Mendez, because when my boys were 5 and 7, I think, he actually taught them tennis. And also Councilmember Gumke taught them tennis. And they still have the little plaque that was given to each of them, and each of them was given a racket for tennis. So it was included in everything. So since that time, they actually developed, they were tiny playing tennis. They developed a love for the sport. And I used to play tennis in high school, and I'm a graduate of Gonzales High in 1991. So I publicly want to thank them because, you know, my son has something productive and positive to do in this community. So I just wanted to mention that. And when somebody from the council becomes a mentor, you know, or a mayor or anybody that's sitting up here, you know, these kids look up to them. So I just wanted to publicly thank them. Moving on to something not so very nice, but you know, I have to say it. My husband wanted me to say on his behalf that he will not attend any more council meetings because he believes his voice is not being heard. He has requested, you know, a meeting for the Mayor Park. I spoke with Ms. Orozco today. She's working on it, but he says, you know, it's taken 1.5 years to do a meeting. And so he says that's why a lot of people do not come unless they're being recognized. So, and I kind of feel the same way. It's taking way too long. If there's no answer, it's better to say, hey, we're here. We don't have an answer for you, but this is what we've done so far and not take so long. So that's why he says he refuses to come anymore. So that's why I'm here. And then in addition to that, you know, I know Ms. Worthy is on the MST board. And one of the things that I do want to mention is that we really need something to be sped up as far as the shelter at the Hartnell Extension in Soledad. And Mr. Carl, you're here. It's going to be winter. And I really hope that people on the committee actually walk. People in Soledad that take the MST extension, you know, they have to walk from Front Street all the way to Orchard. And, you know, my son is currently walking all the way over there, and I'm so, you know, blessed that he's doing that, but he wants to be independent. Come winter, and it's going to be pouring, and he's not going to want me to drive him there. And, you know, these students are going to walk all the way out there from Front all the way to Orchard unless they pay, you know, on-call bus. And they're waiting on a shelter. So I just wanted to mention that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any more folks to the podium. I'll go ahead and ask Marisol, do we have anyone via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Thank you. Stella, do we have any comments via email?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. We have the consent agenda. if you've had an opportunity to review that. If anyone wishes to pull an item, I'll speak up now. Anyone from the public wishing to pull an item from the consent agenda? See now. Okay, I'll bring it back for council action. I'll entertain a motion for.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion. We approve a consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a first and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I carries it. All righty, and this is gonna be a fast meeting. Our next is the report from the Youth Council.
Good evening, council and staff members. Our updates from GYC are currently in the works with Mrs. Sila, who is a publisher at the Monterey County Weekly. She is working on an article with GYC members on our action projects, as well as Mr. Daniel, who is a staff photographer. He came in today and he photographed us GYC members. He is also part of the Monterey County Weekly. And during these meetings, we like to ask our GYC members, give a little heads up of potential career paths. And so when we get guests like this, we like to ask them about how they prepared us for their career paths. And so we asked Mr. Daniel how he came to be as his expertise in photography and journalism. And I personally got motivated and inspired to hear how he showed up in that career path. Along with our action projects, Luke, who is currently here, he had mentioned about our action projects of alcohol and drug prevention. Our vice principal, Mr. Mansfield, he's been very active with the students at the high school in putting drug alcohols within the bathrooms, alerting if any drug alcohol has been aware in the bathrooms, then it alerts, as well as alerting that within GYC members, they have come and they've talked about a lot of drug use within the high school. So that's one of our projects. Another one that is in the works is our house and tenant projects. A lot of the GYC members have commented about when we were in the works, they have mentioned that, it would have been useful if they learned about the house and tenant mats in the past, like the harsh living conditions from personally experienced that they had mentioned personally experienced. As well as our next project will be continuation of the mental health project. We've gone really far in the past with our goals and accomplishments. And so hopefully this year we'll maybe even finish the mental health project. So that is our update. Thank you.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you.
nothing else to add, Mr. Nagel? Okay, all righty. We'll move back over to council. Committee reports. I have the first one, Transportation Agency. A lot of discussion regarding the Highway 68 corridor. TAMC is doing, in addition to the initial studies and work, they're doing a lot of community outreach, and I thought it was very well done. They're starting with community outreach at Laguna Seca, hopefully getting folks from that corridor or show up and make comments regarding the perceived future improvements. They've also are going to do one at the Del Monte Center, not the Del Monte Center, excuse me, the Conference Center in Monterey as a second location. And the third, which I thought was very, very thoughtful of them, was to do one in Salinas. They have not figured out a location for that quite yet, but they realize that a large group of workforce utilizes Highway 68 on a pretty regular basis. I thought that it was interesting. We had one person from the public comment, and they were also concerned about the number of folks that take Portola Drive to circumvent the traffic and then pop out on the north end of that. Yeah, I guess that could be rolled into the Highway 68 project, but I think the simplest fix is just to close that entrance off and make people use the bridge. That's my own opinion, but since I don't travel that anymore and I don't drive it anymore, we'll see what happens in the future. Okay, the Mayor Select Committee, very interesting. I had the opportunity and the pleasure of going to Marina. City Marina has built a bike park. If you go towards where, I'm not exactly sure the name of the road, I think it's Reservation, but it's where the Walmart there is in Marina and the hotels. Just before you get to the Highway 1 entrance, you make a immediate left, and it used to be baseball fields. I thought I was going crazy. I know there was baseball fields here. They've converted that into a bike park and specifically designed for basically 4 years old or 14 years old. And based on the activity during a Friday afternoon, I was very impressed. They said on the weekends it's packed, that they really are just surprised at how much traffic they get in there. The one thing they took away from there was we had a California League of Cities lobbyist that was there and basically told us, brace everybody, because right now the projected deficit in the state budget is $30 billion. I'm just hoping they don't come after city funds, but you never know. The other person that was there that also had some comments was Nick Chulis. He's been moved up to assistant CEO or assistant director for the county. And he commented about the basically the thing that we put together here in Gonzales, which doesn't really circumvent, but improves on the what was that called? The redevelopment funds. So I thought that was great that he commented that, you know, Gonzales is the first project that's moved forward. And the mayor's asking, what are you guys gonna do with that money? He says, well, when we get it, we're hoping to create a affordable housing fund. So the rest of the mayors really latched on that to think that how can they set this up in their own community. So I thought that was that we well represented there, and that the county thought it was a worthwhile effort on behalf of the community. So those are from the two committees that I attend. I believe next is Salinas Valley Recycles.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to report that our next meeting will be on Thursday, November 16th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. Public is always welcome. I never see anybody come in, but you're always welcome. It's always an interesting meeting because we all talk trash.
And if you'd like, I can add, I attended the last meeting on behalf. Yeah, and the one, well, there's a few highlights, but the one big highlight was the youth council was there for Salinas Valley Recycles. So they were there to be acknowledged, well, their presentations and so forth. So that was pretty good to see. They're all high schoolers from the Salinas area. South County wasn't represented, but one of the Salinas High well, Salinas High School is actually a resident of Gonzales. So at least we have a resident in South County. So that was definitely a takeaway, obviously, from the South County representatives was to see South County representation from the high schools going forward. But yeah, so it was nice to see the Sarah and Julia with their youth council.
All righty, next is Measure K.
You want to go? I mean, there's really not anything to report, but basically you all know that the last meeting we had was to have all of us approve the grants. So I hope you all had an opportunity to see what the grants were. We have a couple of new ones, which is kind of exciting. I did get a couple of phone calls from a couple of the groups that said, you cut our funding and now we are going to have to cut a couple things. And I said, well, you know, fortunately I can say the subcommittee was the one that kind of looked at these grants. And then as a group, we decided where to allocate the funds in certain areas. So I'm hoping that it won't do too much damage, but some of these groups have been working, utilizing these Measure K funds for a few years. And hopefully they have figured out other ways to get funding. So we'll just have to see. Carmen, if you want to add anything to that.
The only thing I will add is there are a few members terming out potentially. And so there was a conversation about looking at the bylaws and also adding somebody potentially that is a youth onto that committee. So that's something that the folks on Measure K are considering. And so we are looking at the bylaws and making some of those adjustments.
Also, Carmen, did you receive, there was an application that was submitted for Measure K that was brought in, I believe, at the end of last week. So that's a new applicant, because I know we still have another hole in conjunction with the new people that are terming out, so.
Yeah, and
that-
unfortunately, there's been some folks ill, including me. At the beginning of last week, I was out at the Ambasia liability retreat conference Thursday and Friday, and then Alejandro's out today. So we've crossed paths, and so is Mary. So we crossed paths on being in and out of the office. So I haven't connected with Alejandra, but she's probably got the application.
And then the broadband, we did meet and it basically was to set up meetings for the following year. I will though, I believe, was it today? Did we actually have those drones out there today?
They did not start today. I don't believe we got an actual start date. Patrick, did we?
We did not. We're waiting to hear back. Yeah, the memo that we got from the broadband design consultant was they would start today, but it would, and this is of course in the 4 cities and the unincorporated county, that's all part of the South Salinas Valley Broadband Authority. So start today, go till the 17th. I think today was I don't know if it's a soft start, but yes, they're going to come back with a more detailed schedule. So what we didn't have before is, okay, we did not have, when are they going to fly over Gonzales? When are they going to fly over Soledad? So on and so forth. We've made that request. And we'll let the council, we'll keep the council in the loop when we get that information, Mayor.
And the intent of these drones is not to spy on anybody's backyard. It was basically to set up the future service for our community, and it could be done a lot faster and quicker with using drones rather than going with a truck and saying, yeah, that pole will work. No, that box won't work. So I mean, I see the advantage of having drones. It really is a huge time saver. And so I'm really was hoping that Mr. Barber was going to be here to hear this, because I'm sure he's going to probably be calling the office, say, they're looking in my backyard. So be it.
If I could just add, just so the full council is aware, KSBW is very interested in the story. And so they actually wanted to come out today and record the drones at work. So we anticipate getting some information back to them if we get an actual date and time that they'll come out. But I want you to be aware in case there is a story on it and Gonzales, has drones flying around. So you know what it's about and you have the information.
All righty, moving on, we have the city manager's report. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumped ahead of myself, didn't I? Man, I really must want to get out of here real quick, huh? Okay, we're moving on to oral communications. We'll start with Ms. Orozco.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I received some very positive feedback on the Harvest Festival that took place. I was out of town and wasn't able to attend, but those who did attend were very happy to be able to have these types of events in our community where they can bring their children and where they don't have to go out of town. So very much would like to see more of them, but of these types of events. Also attended the Dia de los Muertos Festival at Centennial Park. And again, it was a nice event. So I'm glad that we're able to continue to do these types of events and that we're able to do them under the grants that we offer the community. And today at Rotary, we had a guest speaker, Fabiola, who many of us know, and she did a great presentation. I know Chief Wise was there, and it's just so great to see how far she's come and what she's doing. She kind of gave a little background on how she got involved and was part of the youth group and what are some of the projects that she's currently working on. So it was great to see that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Funk.
Thank you. And actually likewise, I received great feedback in regards to the Harvest Festival and Dia de los Muertos. So thank you for the staff and volunteers who participated. Good events and residents really enjoy those. So thank you.
Silva.
Just wanted to let everyone know that our American Legion Auxiliary Unit will be distributing flags this Saturday at the Veterans Day Parade in Salinas. It begins at 2 p.m. from Salinas High to the Steinbeck Center. We will be distributing about 300 flags to those that are attending. And the Grand Marshal this year is Mr. Butch Lindley, who farmed here for many years under the JNL Farms, and then he was the He also had Lockwood Vineyards down in the South County, so I know many of you know him, and I would like to invite everybody and anybody to be out there and honor our veterans, as they should always be honored. He is a veteran of the Vietnam War. Also a reminder that the Adventure Seeking Seniors will be having their monthly luncheon on Thursday, November 16th at 11:30 a.m. at St. Theodore's Parish Hall. And that's all I have.
Yeah, I'd like to continue on with what Ms. Silva said. My husband was actually honored this past weekend as one of the Veterans of the Year. We were over in Marina, and it was an incredible event just to see the different guys that were there and women, men and women. He will be there on Saturday as well, helping with the flags. He's going to help our auxiliary hand out flags. I also wanted to thank those kids that were able to come out to the Legion Hall on Halloween night. We did have a little trick or treat goodie bag night, and a few kids came by, and next year it'll be bigger and better. We just kind of wanted to feel the waters a little bit and see how it went. But we're trying more and more to get a few more activities going. We will be presenting flags on Thursday to La Gloria, to all the teachers at La Gloria School. The auxiliary will be presenting them with all new flags for their classrooms. So that's kind of a fun little thing too. So thank you to everyone who supports the Legion and the auxiliary. Thank you.
Alrighty, it's left to me. Wanted to bring up a rather stinky subject. I don't know if you've all noticed, but it seems to be sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, a really strong stench. And I thought maybe it was fertilizer, right? I mean, that's kind of what I thought, but it was kind of much more different. Well, my wife likes to watch these videos on California Bountiful, and it's basically a program that highlights California's agricultural community. One of the things that they highlighted, and it got me to thinking, was a new plant that's over off an M&M Dairy, or the leasing property from M&M Dairy, where they take meats, they take basically food waste and create fertilizers from that. And apparently, I mean, they're doing quite well. And I just so happened, I asked my son, hey, give me a ride out there. I'm just curious to see where it's at. And it's a pretty good sized facility once you get out there. Darn, I smell that stench. Where's out in M&M Dairy? So that stench you guys are smelling, and I'm sure it's got to be really strong in your neighborhood.
It is.
If I could get it in my neighborhood, I mean, when you get that far out there, my eyes almost felt like watering. Not that they don't water most of the time, but I thought, wow, this is really pungent. I know that the Air Board handles a lot of this, and is it worth our while to send them a little note and say, why should we be suffering these effects? I know that when the wastewater treatment facilities that were at the prison were basically not being monitored as closely as they should be, that state started to become pretty rancid. And man, it just took one call of the Air Board, and all of a sudden that was taken care of. I don't know what they did. I don't know whether they were cleaning the process quicker or moving along faster. I really don't know, but is it possible that we could send the Air Board a note and say, why do we have to suffer that stench? We're a little community to the south. Isn't there anything they can do to mask that smell?
Yeah, I did get some concerns of some of the workers that were actually working out in the fields and smelled it. One of the ladies actually became so sick, she had to go home. And
okay, so I'm not alone.
No,
okay,
no, it was early.
You know, and my wife's well, believe it or not, having worked at PG&E for a long time, the most sensitive nose of anybody is not us men, and it's a pregnant woman. Her heightened sense of smell is just immense. Well, initially when it first happened, you know, my wife's the one that said, God, doesn't smell like any fertilizer I've smelled before. She says, "Do you think that's some toxic spray that they're doing?" I said, "You know what? Most of the companies now are going organic. So if it is, I'd be shocked it would smell that bad." And I thought, at first I said, "Nah, you're smelling things again." But the next morning, I happened to go out there in the evening, it was like, woo-hoo-hoo. I said, I felt like my eyes were watering. And it's funny because that was on Friday. Saturday, I see the program because we're sitting, she goes, "Watch this program. It's about a company here in Gonzales." I said, "Okay, I'll watch the program." And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Now, when I worked at PG&E, I used to work with Salinas Talent. If anybody's ever been to Salinas Talent, you'll know what I mean. Salinas Talent does the same thing. They process all the waste meat from restaurants. They pick up dead cattle, dead geese, dead fish, whatever. Man, I'll tell you what, if you've never smelled death like that, you experience it once. It's something you will never forget. And that's what kind of got my brain thinking. And when I saw the video, I said, "Oh, so they're doing that, huh?" And Simone happened to be home the weekend. I said, "Hey, be right out there, would you?" "Sure, Pops." We go out there and, wow, this is horrible. I can't imagine if you have to work around here, what it must feel like.
Yeah, well,
So-
that's the impact it has on some folks. Yeah. if could
Would you
just
please?
At least
I'd
share
appreciate
the
it.
concern. No.
Yeah, no, you're not imagining it, because all the way on Third Street, we can smell it. I don't know if you can smell it all the way on First Street. So, yeah, it's really rancid. It's not really, yeah, it's not really cow manure, because that's a pretty interesting smell. And it's definitely, I don't know how to quite describe it, but it's pretty rancid. Mhm. Well, if you want to get a really good smell for it, drive up on stage. When you hit M&M Dairy, you'll see the silos and stuff that they got out there. And boy, that's just for the folks that live out there in M&M Dairy. Yeah. And again, I also wanted to say thank you. And I apologize. I could not make the trunk and treat. I was committed to a wedding up in Prunedale. We did drive back and it was 7 o'clock, so we thought we wouldn't see anything. And both my wife and I were so pleasantly surprised that basically the whole street was full. So obviously it was a very well-received event. So thank you to staff, and thank you for Chief and Public Works and everyone else that helped put that together. Obviously it was very appreciated. Thank you. All right. City Manager's report.
Yeah, I'll make it brief. I was also just gonna thank staff for putting the holiday festival together, Harvest Festival together. It was a great event. I was a little bit under the weather and I still got out there, and I was glad I did because we kept running out of candy. I mean, that's the only thing, is lesson learned, is have plenty full of bags of candy. I had to take Frank's because mine kept running out. There was just, initially, we'd give it two pieces, and then by the end, we were giving one because they just kept coming and coming and coming. So it was really well received and appreciative to all the staff that helped put that together. Also, just put on your radar, Holiday Lights is coming up December 4th, 4 to 7. I'm sure that will be another well-attended event. We'll have a plan for if it rains, but the party will go on just in a different location. And then finally, I just want to, I don't have the actual figures in front of me right now, but the garage sale, the community-wide garage sale did an outstanding job. We had, over 90 garage sales that actually registered. But most importantly, the timing of the garage sale actually worked really well because we got a report from Mari Trelevin that they did collect a lot of new items at their collection trash pickup days. So the actual timing of it worked well. That was the intention, to have folks take out their junk or what they perceive as junk, 1 week, and then by the weekend have a cleanup event by Tri-Cities. And so it worked out well. So I will have Tavin report more about it in his activity report the next time, but just we will continue to have that next year as well.
One last thing I forgot to mention, just so you know, I'm going in for operation number 9, Wednesday the 15th. Believe it or not, I am actually looking forward to this operation because hopefully it'll take away my double vision, because right now I see like pretty much normal, but foggy on this side. I see clear on this side, but it's 20% smaller. And when I asked the doctor, why is that? He says, well, you don't have a lens in your eye. He says, once I take the oil out and put the lens in, they should both equal out. And that'd be a nice feeling because that way I won't get as dizzy as I've been getting. Looking down the way there and I'm seeing, you know, but my wife's always telling me, well, look at me just through your left eye. Okay. No, I was just gonna say that, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that by that work that some of my sight comes back, at least enough to clearly read the agenda. So if I skip things or miss things, I apologize.
You said yours is on the 15th?
On 15th.
George is on the 15th too. He's having his other cataract done.
Oh.
Question, are we going to have a parade this year?
We are having the parade. The parade, I believe, is scheduled for the 9th, so it's the following week
The 9th?
of December. It's the following week of December, so that following
Yep, that's
Saturday
right.
is that the,
Okay. Thank you. Have to get all this stuff on the calendar.
yes, I know. We're starting to get questions, so we're starting to put out save the dates for folks. as well.
Okay.
Creeping up on us.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so now the council will adjourn and move into a closed session to discuss matters of personal nature. Michael, could you please read that? I memorized and it just flew out of my head right now. The specific law number that it pertains to.
I can read it.
Oh, thank you.
The city council will recess the closed session pursuant to government code section 54956.9A to confer with the attorney regarding pending litigation, which has been initiated formally and to which the city is a party, Madera versus City of Gonzales.
And then number 15.
Oh, I'm sorry, not on my copy.
Oh.
Want to read that one?
The city council will recess to close session to consider personnel matters pursuant to government code section 54957 parentheses B parentheses 1, city manager evaluation.
Okay. We stand adjourned.